So I'm going to save $1,500 a month for basically equal to 5 years because I'll cut the term down. Hey everyone, Travis Spear here with Pine Financial Group, where we work together so you succeed. Thanks so much for joining me today on this video. Please leave comments below, share this video with your networks and other people who might benefit from the information we're providing every single week on Fridays. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about refinancing rental properties. Is it a good time to do so? Rates are extremely low, if not the lowest, near the lowest that they've been in the last couple of years, and the environment for refinancing seems to be getting a little bit better for investors as time goes on. There's a ton of non-QM products out there, if you're not familiar, qualified mortgage, meaning that there might be some opportunities for investors to refinance properties based strictly on the rental income, not based on their income, taxes, credit score, etc., which makes it a little easier. And some of those products are even getting a little bit more palatable in both rate, cost, and term. Starting to see products that have longer terms available and at rates that aren't too far off of bank or conventional financing. Of course, they'll be a little bit higher, but not too far out. Conventional financing continues to be a great tool for financing and refinancing investment properties. But one thing we have to be conscious of there is earlier this year when Fannie and Freddie decided that the income property and second home properties was taking up too much of their portfolio, most lenders increased the pricing a little bit in order to get those closed. So it might be a little higher in closing costs, or it might be a little bit higher in rate. So you might want to shop that where you may not have previously. Now, conventional financing is still going to provide you the absolute best loan for the long term, 30-year fixed at the best rates, but maybe not the absolute best closing costs. So you'll want to check into that and see where you might get your best deal. One thing to keep in mind about conventional is that it has to be in your personal name. Another option is working with local banks, something I've been doing for a few years in addition to the conventional financing route. And actually, I have a great relationship with a local bank here in Denver. And recently they called me. I had 4 properties financed with them. And they said, hey, your rates are at 4.5% and 5% from, 4 or 5 years ago. Now, these are on 15-year loans for me and relatively low loan amounts. So I wasn't too proactive about refinancing them. But they said with a loan modification, we could get you down to 2.75% without any costs, or maybe 1 point, but not another closing, just simply modifying the loan. And I thought, gosh, that seems like a pretty good deal. So I was able to do that. So although it's not a huge savings on a month-to-month basis, over the remaining terms of the loans, it definitely made sense to do so, especially at such a low cost. So let me tell you about a refinance that I'm currently working on, expecting to close in the next week or so. Same bank here in Denver. I had 3 properties, all within a few blocks of each other, and all 3 of them had loans on them. Again, small loan amounts, 60, 70, maybe 90,000 was the highest. And they're at higher rates. One of them might have been over 5% from when I purchased these properties almost 10 years ago. But because the loan amounts were so small, it was difficult to make sense of doing a refinance strictly because of all of the fixed fees when you do a refinance. So you've got your title fees, of course you got origination, appraisal, credit fees, all those different costs to do the deal. And that, usually can total a couple $1,000s or a few $1,000s, and even saving 2 points in rate on those low loan amounts, it just didn't make sense on a payback period of maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years or something like that in order to actually do those refinances. But I was looking at it recently, and 2 of the properties actually considering selling next year. So I was looking at the way to put this deal together, and what I was able to do was refinance one of them, take the cash out of that property, and then turn around and use those funds to pay off the other 2 properties. Now, we're really just leveraging up one property and accomplishing the same thing, but there's significantly less fixed fees because you've only got 1 appraisal, 1 closing fee, title fees, and all of that. And so it made the cost to do it pretty inexpensive. I was able to shave almost 2.5 points off of the blended rate to go to this loan. And here's where it's exciting also, is I was in 30-year loans before, and now for the same payment, I'm gonna go into a 15-year loan. I had 20 years remaining, so I'm gonna save $1,500 a month for equal to 5 years because I'll cut the term down. The other reason I thought that it might make sense to do this is because 2 of the properties I just mentioned I might sell next year. It will give me more flexibility with the proceeds to do a 1031 exchange to go forward. So instead of having to pay off all those small loan amounts that were still on them, it's going to give me about another $150,000 of spending power when I get on the other end. But there's a handful of things to consider when you're looking at refinancing a property. It's not necessarily all in the rate or all in the term or all in the cost or even the relationship with your lender, but you do need to understand some different things. And one thing that a lot of people really get stuck on is interest rate. And for this loan, I actually had the opportunity to go as low as 2.75, but I think it was going to cost me me almost 2 points in origination to get there. So, pretty quickly you're doing the math. What's 2 points on whatever it was, a $220,000 loan amount is $4,400. And you can see in the table what the savings would be per rate. And so I think paying that $4,400, it would have saved me, say, $60 or something versus not paying anything. Well, that's a lot of months before you break even, 60 something months. So it just doesn't make sense. So then I look at the next best option, which is to pay a point and be at, I don't know, say maybe it was 3% or something like that. And still, the payback period was similar. So I actually went with a higher rate. I think I ended up at 3.25%, but with no cost to the deal, no discount points. So that gave me a much earlier break even, and I was able to get a little bit more cash out of the deal. The great thing about rates with local banks versus conventional lenders is typically it's going to be the same rate whether you're taking cash out or not. Sometimes you're going to get a little bump in rate for cash out at a conventional lender. And here's another thing to keep in mind is what you're going to do with that money if you take cash out. Now, a lot of people, if you've been investing in real estate for say 5 or more years, you probably have significant equity in your properties if you haven't already refinanced them. So let's say you are looking at a cash out refinance. You could save some money in rate, but you could also pull some money out of it. The number one question you have to ask yourself is what would you do with that money if you pulled it out? If you're going to go buy a boat, put it in the bank or something like that, it probably doesn't make as much sense. But if you're going to use those proceeds to pay off another property or even go buy another property, that might be a great way to use that money. Keep in mind when you're doing a cash out refinance, you're paying interest on the full loan amount on day one, unlike a line of credit or something like that where you'd only pull it out when you need it. The benefit though, of course, in the cash out refinance is you have a term loan, meaning that you're going to pay it down through amortization to the end of the loan versus a line of credit where you could easily ratchet it up. And then if you bought another property with it, but you didn't consider what you would do with that line of credit and say at some point it got called due, market conditions changed or something like that, it could leave you in a tough spot. So just a couple of options to consider when you're thinking about how you might pull some money out of a property and of course what you would do with that money. So I'm curious, who out there is refinancing investment properties right now? What type of rates and terms and things like that are you seeing? Of course, if you ever have questions about financing, we'd love to be a resource for you, even if it's not hard money or fix and flip money. We consider ourselves financing experts and know a lot of different people in the space. So if there's some questions you have or something we can help you with, do not hesitate to contact us. It's www.pinefinancialgroup.com. See you next time, YouTubers.